Hello, my name is Steve. I'm continuing on with my Dungeons & Dragons Red Book Rules RPG Campaign-Adventure project. Past two videos I was working on a character sheet design because I'm trying to design a character. And I'm going to continue on with that process. I'm going to have to redo this. Okay. This is the pencil version. This is the ink version. It's the ink version that has to be redone. You can see. Okay. All right. So you cannot see the details of what I'm writing, so I'm going to describe what I'm doing. Okay. I had to do this off camera, meaning even though I'm doing a video session, I'm not going to see it on the camera. Let's see here, yeah, you're not seeing what I'm doing here. Player. 5 of 6. Character. Class. Alignment. Level. XP needed. Starting XP. Oops. Earned XP. Okay, starting XP means the character. This is how many character experience points your character has earned at the time of the sheet at the creation of the sheet. XP needed is for to attain the next level. Earned XP is how many experience points your character earned during this session. So basically you would have for your character design. Okay. Dungeons. And Dragons. RPG. Red Book Rules. Copyright 1980. Player character info. Data. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now, as a player, okay, if the player needs a character sheet, character design sheet. Well, first, you can have. When the player is, okay, so you need, for player information, you have player, Dungeon Master, concept, of campaign. Of the campaign world. Setting. And campaign and adventure storylines. Let me get out of the way. So basically, you got a group of you got a play group. Your play group gets together for the first time. Let's play Dungeons and Dragons, or it could be Red Book Rules. It could be what are some other Rolemaster, which I have. What are some other fantasy stuff that's out there? Okay. You can do Star Trek RPGs, Gamma World. This is old school, back in '86 stuff. You can do Star Frontiers, Alternity. These are game systems I have some familiarity with. Way back in the 80s, in the 1980s. Then you have, well, Alternity is like 1990s, 2000s. Firefly RPG, which is very recent. You have game systems like Space 1889, and Ironclad Sea of Fires. You have Warhammer 40,000. Well, there's an RPG version of that now, but Vampire the Masquerade. I never played that. I knew people who did that back in the 1990s. Let's see here. Shadowspawn. Shadowrun. I did some adventure with Shadowrun. Never had the game, but I had some characters. Marvel Superheroes First Edition. That's my gameplay experience. I had 3 different characters from that. Palladium Game Systems, Hero System. I have the Robotech, the first Robotech publication from Palladium. Let's see here, what a Doctor Who RPG. I've seen that in tape. I was a Doctor Who fan. I'm a Whovian. Time travel. The first 4 Doctors are the Bible and time travel, as far as I'm concerned. The new Who is just, none of it matters. This way modern day TV movies and theater movies are. None of this really matters. It doesn't matter what RPG system you're playing. You get a group together, and it's going to say, okay, we want to, how are we going to do this? Is this going to be a Traveler, okay, like the 1980s edition Traveler, Mega Traveler, Traveler 2300, Traveler New Era. Those are the game systems I've had all those. New Era, and they got stolen, and I was able to replace the 1980 Traveler. The New Era was going to be for my. I looked at all the Traveler for the History of Criminal Mega General campaign setting. Mega, MEGA, not META. And I was looking at for my History of Criminal campaign. Then it got stolen, and then Hero System was going to be another major area, and that game system is broken beyond playability. So the History of Clone War is dead in the water. Let's see here. So you have, you get your play group together. Somebody is the referee. Now, my original play group, D&D play group back in 1983, the play group consisted of between 12 and 20 players. The number fluctuated from game session to game session. I think I think the largest number was maybe 20, or close to it. I think I did a count. I did a body count a couple times. One body count was definitely 12. I think another body count was 20. And then there is, so it was a large group. And it fluctuated. And that play group, you had multiple dungeon masters. You had the main dungeon master, and you had assistant dungeon master. He had an assistant dungeon master, or secondary dungeon masters. They dealt with different aspects of the game system mechanics. They assisted in RPGing characters, NPCs. They dealt with certain rules aspects and stuff like that. So then some of them were, I think, dungeon masters of training. You had one primary dungeon master, but he may not be available, so then other dungeon masters would come in and take his place during game sessions. So there's like 3 or 4 assistants, secondary slash dungeon masters training slash dungeon master, assistant slash secondary slash training in that group. Which is none of that was represented in. Actually, I think Gary Gygax AD&D mentioned you can have multiple dungeon masters working together. May or may not. Most RPG systems only talk about one dungeon master, though. You can have a dungeon master assistant providing information, whatever. Maybe regulating combat maps and stuff like that. Because there's a lot. Dungeon mastering is there's a lot going on there. Sounds like thunder. So you get your play group together and talking about what kind of players you want to have, character classes, races, ethnicities, genders, what kind of adventuring the group is going to be engaged in. What is the game world going to look like? Is it an sword and sorcery, fantasy, comic book superhero stuff, espionage? I did some military espionage game system. Recon. I forget what it's called. We did Recon. I think it was called Recon. It was a Vietnam War era game system. Military. Call of Cthulhu. Did that. Whatever. Outer space sci-fi. So you say what you get. Some of the YouTube videos say Adventure 0. Based on my understanding, what Adventure 0 is you're designing a character, and then you meet up, you role-playing the characters meeting up for the first time in this adventure game world. So maybe like in a Dungeons and Dragons setting, you may have an elf character and a dwarf character and a halfling character meeting up with a human fighter, a human cleric, and a human thief, and a human magic user. So you got an elf wandering around, doing whatever he's doing, and he has his or her thing going. The dwarf may have her thing going, and so they end up in this one town together. Maybe it's a human settlement, maybe it's a dwarf settlement, maybe it's a hybrid, something, or maybe there's a base. Maybe they meet on path, and somebody's camping out, and they meet each other in the wilderness or something, by happenstance. So that's what Adventure 0 may be about. I'll be back. I'm in Texas. It's really hot out here. So I iced this up. It was frozen. Now it's thawing out, so it's all wet. So you get a piece. And so there. iced tea, not spiked. I do drink hard liquor. I mix. I don't do much anymore. Not as much as I used to. I mean, all kinds of drinks. I just blend stuff together when I feel like, during my teenage years, you go to a fast food restaurant like Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's, and they have all these sodas and lemonades and stuff, options. I go down the line, Coke, Sprite, Dr. Pepper, lemonade, and iced tea. Do it all mix. Get a strainer, mix it all up, and I used to do that back in my high school years. I throw in, sometimes I do sodas and iced tea. I throw in whatever, vodka, rum, gin, bourbon, whiskey. I mix and match, whatever. I don't do much drinking anymore, mostly for throat and throat issues or digestive issues. Whatever. So you get together and you talk about what the campaign is. That's what this is. So the player have the information of what they're trying to, what's going to go on, what's happening here. So then that's what this is. The player needs to have player character conception. Now, with Dungeons & Dragons, the Red Book Rules, and the AD&D First Edition, this was not a thing. You did not, you roll up your character and then you figure out what you do with the character. Then from there, you come up with a character conception. What does this character look like? What does this character is? What is it? And you come up with whatever. The dice determines shapes your conception of the character. The dice rolls determines how you're going to play the character based on the character classes and stuff. It's a random thing. Other RPGs like Marvel Superheroes RPG. You have a character. You have a character conception. There is a randomness die rolls. You have different levels of mutant levels, or different classifications of mutants, based on how many abilities a mutant can start with, and how what their starting levels look like, and then what their advanced levels look like. What's their maximum abilities? Look at how many spells they can end up with in the campaign, and how powerful they can be. There's a lot of within the Marvel universe. There are a lot of generic mutants who are low level, may have one or two powers, that are very weak and stuff. Then you have mutants with one or two powers who are very powerful and who can evolve to very powerful. Then you got characters who start out with a few powers but they can really max. They can have up to 7, 8, 9 powers or something like that, and be ultra high level. So you have player conception. What genre? What character class? What gender the character is, male, female, non-binary. I go there. I'm Gen X, and then non-binary trans is BS. The terminology is total BS. But yeah, I go there. Most people can't. Okay, that's fine. Let's see here. So and then personality. Are they friendly? Are they mean? Are they good people? Or are they bad people? A lot of RPGers I've played with like to play with evil characters. They would just want to wreak havoc with everybody and everything. They want to be the outlaws of society. So you have character consumption. Then you have your character design. With Dungeons and Dragons and AD&D, okay, let's do this for you. With Dungeons and Dragons and AD&D, character design comes first, then character conception. But with other RPGs and let's see here, Star Frontiers, how did that work? Star Frontiers was random. Traveler was random. I moved to San Antonio, got DC Heroes. DC Heroes, you build from scratch. You conceive of a character, and you custom design your character the way you want within the hero system, the DC Heroes role-playing game system. And that got me hooked. I did BattleTech 2nd Edition. I bought BattleTech 2nd Edition because I thought it was Robotech. Took it home, opened it up. It's not Robotech, but I can scratch design my own mechs. When Palladium came out with its Robotech, I bought that. You can't scratch design anything. Star Trek RPG, you can't scratch design anything. You can scratch design your own player characters. I don't know their player character design. I never messed with that system. But I've looked at the game system to see if I'd be interested in it. I'm not really interested in Star Trek universe RPG in it. I want a more open universe. We're exploring in this universe not really conquered, and you're meeting unknown societies and stuff. So yeah. So yeah, then you have your adventure data sheet. Adventure record sheet. This is the information that you'll have per adventure. So you're going to have multiple adventure records. Your first level character, you design this format. I'm going to use the pencil version. I think that's complete. Okay, this is the adventure record sheet. Well, it's a character design sheet. And then with other RPG systems, you have a character design sheet, the basic sheet, and then you create the original design, character design, and then you create an additional sheet that adds information from the campaign, the adventure session, and then so you have this is your base character data. Then you have your abilities. It's blank right now because of the. And then you have your equipment lists. Then you have your treasure lists. This is your record, adventure record data. Well, this is a combination of both. Dungeons and Dragons was their very first RPG system, and then you have your record. So it's Dungeons and Dragons Red Book Rules, Gary Gygax first edition, AD&D. Is very basic. You have information. The more modern RPG systems, like third edition, 5th edition, you have more character conception, storyline, mechanics, and stuff. Now, the Gary Gygax first edition AD&D did have Dungeon Master concept information for the Dungeon Master to create information for non-player characters. They also had information for player characters. You can determine the maximum. The Dungeon Master can say, okay, what is the maximum age of your character? How many years is this guy going to live? Assuming they don't die during an adventure, die of natural age, from age, disease, whatever. Okay, illnesses and stuff like that. When you adventure. Your adventure activities may shorten that time span or increase that time span. So, yeah, and then, but yeah, you could also, the Dungeon Master had information determine the personalities of the NPCs to help the Dungeon Master to have, to have a more flexible interaction. Not a lot of NPCs say the same thing, act the same way. You can have retainers that are friendly. You got retainers that are antisocial. You got retainers that are helpful. You got retainers that are detrimental to the party. So. Yeah, and you can apply that. You can say, you can also say, what kind of skills, survival skills, does the character have? Maybe he has, if he's not out adventure, what is he doing in the city? He may be a fisherman or a cook or whatever. He may have some training in leatherworking or blacksmithing or something like that. You have options. There are character background options available in the Gary Gygax First Edition AD&D. With Third Edition 3.5, the player, that information is in the player's handbook. And it is a given. And with Gary Gygax AD&D, it was not. It was an optional. Red Book Rules does not have any of that mechanics. So, you also have the campaign storyline or the campaign record sheet. The campaign record sheet represents, okay, what has your character done? Your character has done multiple adventures, so you have multiple adventure record sheets for your character. And the campaign record sheet just represents the overall storyline that the character has undergone. For example, you may have a character that did the G1 series and the AD&D G1 series. And so your campaign record, you got multiple character sheets for that character. A lot of times what players did back in those days, you had one character sheet and then that for multiple adventures. But then sometimes that got out of hand, so you created another one to replace it to get, to organize the stuff better. But with modern day RPG systems, you have a character sheet for Adventure 1, character generation. Then you have a character data sheet for your first adventure. Then you have a character data sheet for your second adventure. And for your third, you have your own data sheet for the third adventure. And then you have a campaign data sheet that does the overall story on what has happened as time progressed. But the way Dungeons & Dragons Red Book Rules was created and the way AD&D Gary Gygax Rules game system was created, the campaign was more about what adventures does your character went through. Your player, okay, for example, this player character that I'm creating, he or she will have his or her own series of adventure records. I can take him or her to another game. So this is my character. This is what this character has experienced, or what not, or I scratch designed this character, and this is the original. I haven't adventured with this character yet. This is what I have done. Take that character and then go to another play group, did the adventure, completed the adventure, go to another play group with this character and say, okay, totally different campaign world setting, totally different series of expectations, and then same thing, and then take this character to another game session, a different play group, or switch between multiple play groups with the same character. And so the campaign storyline for this character would be different from another person's character who stayed in one campaign and stayed, had different adventures and stuff. With this one dungeon master in this one game world setting. So that's what the adventure record sheet would do. And are expected that the player character that you create would be used in multiple different game sessions and maybe multiple play groups. The AD&D, well, that's especially true with this is hold on. That is how the Red Book was conceived. The player character can die real easy. You do not, it says in here, you do not get attached to the character. Player character attachment is a no-no. With AD&D, you with Red Book was expected that the character you create, it may die sooner or later, and then you're going to have to create a new character from scratch and continue on the game storyline, the campaign, the event storyline with a new character, or the campaign storyline with a new character. The AD&D Gygax First Edition allowed for the player to say, I have a character concept that I want to RPG and have him or her survive multiple adventures and either in a single campaign world setting or be used in multiple game groups, in a single game group, or maybe used in multiple game groups. You can also do the D&D basic random character design, and if he dies, if he or she dies, he scratches out a new one and go. You can do both with AD&D, the Gary Gygax First Edition. But the information, the character creation information, is an afterthought for the Gary Gygax First Edition. So that's what so this is the kind of information that the player will have. Basically, role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games, is paperwork management. Now, when you get into, there's a lot of documentation, there's a lot of things going on. You're doing a lot of paperwork. But you're also, the game session is not about paperwork. It's about fantasizing about this character that you've created and the game and what your character is doing within this fictional game world setting. How he or she interacts with the game world setting, the life forms and the game world setting. How he or she evolves and learns about the game world. Some game systems, okay, for example, like modules, like the G1s, the G series 1, 2, and 3, G1, G2, G3. They advance, if you go through the module, your player characters will advance from level 1 to level 9 to name level by the time they end G3. It's expected. Then the G3, then there's the D1, D2, and then there's S1. I think there may be an S2 that goes with the G and D series. I'm not clear on that. So your characters will advance very quickly and publish modules. My gameplay experience with tabletop RPG and with video gaming in general, video RPGs like RuneScape, ArcAge, there's a couple others that I've done, Star Sonata, Golemizer, Exorasi. Well, with Exorasi, you had a limited universe, and it went from lasted for maybe 3 to 6 months, 9 months, and then it ended, and then you started a new universe. So it was it's basically Exorasi is basically an outer space version of Risk. You start out somewhere and you expand, and then who wins the universe, who gets to dominate the universe. Star Sonata is not that way. You have a character and then interact and expand. You establish base sites and space stations across the universe. But with my experience, players focus on leveling up as fast as they can. And then they maxed out. Okay, there's nothing here to do. I'm bored. There's no players. This is true with Navy Field version 1. This is true with World of Warships. This is true with RuneScape. I played RuneScape between 2004 and 2012. Most of my gaming occurred between 2004 and 2008. Around 2006, there's a player character named Ezra who was number 1 on the list. He maxed out everything. I assume it's a he. And on all his skills, everybody's wondering, who's this guy? And so they gave him a skill, Jagex decided to give him a special skill cape that says, you have completed the game. You got level 99 and everything. And so they came up with something to reward, and they took him. Okay, they announced that Ezra is the first player to complete the game system, maxed out, and they spent a month or 2, maybe 3, figuring out what to give the guy, and for reward, and they came up with a skill cape. And so they gave Ezra a non-tradable, unique skill cape. And then players started saying, I've achieved level 99 and this and that and the other. Why can't we have skill capes too? And then 2 or 3 months later, there were skill capes for other stuff. Jagex now down to that. And then people started focusing on, how can I complete the game system as ASAP? I want to level up. And so when you do that, you're not really immersing in the games. Same thing with Minecraft. You're not immersing yourself into the game world with, okay, who are these characters? What is this, what do these environments look like and stuff like that. When I was playing RuneScape, I was basically doing Minecraft. I was crafting, collecting resources and crafting stuff. That was my main objective. I really didn't want to do player versus player combat. I'm not good at player versus player combat. I'm left-handed. The game systems do not allow me to set up the controllers the way I need to have them set up to do left-handed, to do Mech Warrior. Video game systems would not allow me to set up the controllers the way I needed them to set up to walk, twist torso up and down at the same time, and look up, and my brother could, but I could not set up. There was restrictions in how I could set up the controllers that way I need, so I can do that. So I had to lose an ability. Either I can stand still and move up and down, rotate, or I can move and have up and down or side to side. So I had to sacrifice something in order to fight. I couldn't do all three with a mech. So the Mech Warrior video series kind of sucked for me. And that's the way it is with RPG. When it comes to Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, the combinations, I don't play enough to match the skills. And after 2 hours of gaming, I want to scratch the design on my own character. I do not like the character designs. Well, I like the characters. I like the combinations and stuff. The mechanics, game system mechanics. But I want to customize my own character. I want to, maybe have a Chun-Li with a Ryu uniform with, a sword or whatever. It's different mix and match the weapons, mix and match the normal attacks, mix and match the special attacks, combos, mix and match the attributes, and can't do that. So, pure combat is not, I'm not into pure combat. Other than game systems like Navy Field, I do military combat strategy games. Armies of Gilnor, that's what it's called. I did that. Arcanists, and done on the Fun Orb website. The original Fire Master here. Be in a cave, shoot out the cave, somebody in a cave over here, get into the cave and hit that person. Easy peasy. My character's name was Lantazola. She was a female avatar. I play with female avatars a lot. And then I said, so I said I'm a male player, but my avatar is female. So people say he or she. People were like freaking out. Well, why are you doing that? I don't want to look at a guy. I want to look at a girl. And female avatars in game systems have way more fashion options than what guys have. And better looking fashion options too. So, I'm embracing my girly side. So, the people the advanced is they advance real fast and okay, I'm my level and I'm tier 10 premium. There's nobody to fight, You just take it easy and enjoy the game. Enjoy the and these guys, they go to the website and they read up on and they go to non-web associated websites and that are not associated with the game system, and they talk about the game mechanics of this game system, and they have their own theories. So when I was playing Navy Field version 1, the master players, the experts, the tier 10 players were all about hooting, destroying the enemy warship with AP rounds as fast as possible, and how to do that. As a high schooler in the 1980s, I studied real-life military technology and real-life military history. I understood the evolution of naval warfare, military warfare from the Stone Age to the present day, back in the 1980s and the early 90s. So, land, Stone Age technology, Iron Age technology, European Renaissance technology, the Victorian Age technology, the World War I technology, interwar technology, World War II technology, post-World War II technology, land, air, sea. Then in the 1990s, I started studying outer space technology, basically science fiction, Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, Star Blazers, Robotech, and so. And then I started when I moved to San Antonio after in 1990. So I started D&D and AD&D. Well, I did D in 1980. I went to Wisconsin to visit relatives there, and got the 1980 version of the Red Book rules. That's what this. And then came back to San Antonio in 1980. And I graduated 8th grade. My brother was held back in 7th grade. I graduated 7th grade and went going to 8th grade. My brother was held back in 7th grade. And so we were like 12, 13 years old. And Mom was promising to Dungeon Master us. 1982 came along, and that never happened. So, and 1980, Mom cut out the Dungeon Master section. This page, this sheet. Yeah, and this. Yeah, so she cut out. Wait a minute. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, she cut out these. And then my brother and I wanted, in 1982, she never did anything. She got involved with college, going to becoming a teacher, getting a master's degrees in teaching English. So it never happened. And so in 1982, we got the stuff back, and we needed a braided, we took a braid from a braided folder and put it back together. And so in 1995, a bunch of my RPG stuff got stolen, and my 1980, my Red Book version was part of that theft. And eventually, late 1990s, early 2000s, I got this as a replacement. So this is the 1981 publication, not the 1980. In 1982, 83, between, we got this, I think 83, 84, 85, before the Beck Me came out. Then when Beck Me came out, I got the entire box set. So the you do not, based on my experiences, you didn't the player character, you do not really get to experience the game world setting to its fullest. The game like RuneScape, Arcade, are filled with quests that you have to do, and that's where you get your rapid advancement in. And once you've done all the quests, and so, but the quests will take you to all parts of the world. And okay, you've done this, done that, you got all these happy stuff. Then you do the events, and so you have all of this. You accumulated so much stuff. It's like Magic the Gathering. You got so many cards and stuff that you can't, I got a 5,000 card collection, easy. With Magic the Gathering, I have like 2 file boxes worth of Magic the Gathering cards. Okay, so it's just okay. I'm bored. What's that? What else there is to do? And like I said, the players and Navy Field, the expert players, were all about defeating everybody. In 1980, I came up with my own warship based on my study of naval warships. I understood the evolution of warship design and how different nations did their warship design, how warships differed from nation to nation. And I'm not the expert that YouTuber Dracula is, but he's he has access to information I don't have access to, but I've done, I'm diverse. I'm way more diverse than what he is. He specializes in World War I, World War II warship technology. But that takes him back to the 1850s technology too. So, so the pre-dreadnought battleship designs, pre-Harvey Steel technologies. The USS Monitor versus the USS Virginia ironclads, and Captain Bain and American Civil War. Whatever, at the Hamptons, whatever. So when I came up with my own warship design theories. I came up, and as a high schooler in the 1980s, I came up with my own naval warship design theories for the different classes: frigates, destroyers, cruisers, battle cruisers, battleships, aircraft carriers. I came up with my own naval warfare tactics and strategies for each warship design, and for a fleet battle, and for fleet combinations. But I had no means of actually play testing it. And then when I started playing, when Navy Field came out, it's been published for about a year when I started playing Navy Field 1. World of Warships had been out for a couple years. Didn't like World of Warships. There were other naval war games, sailing ship arrows and stuff like that, that were not really of my interest. I spent between 1 and 3 months combing through the Navy Field website, looking at the data that they had. This jives with what I've seen in 1980. Can I do this? Can I do that? And based on my 1980, can I do it from my 1980? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. So, and then I did the website tutorials. Then I downloaded the game. Then I did the tutorials from the downloaded game. Then I started doing the game system. I mostly played with the Great Battles. I was a low-level player. I did Great Battles because they had open seas and can do stuff. The scenarios were too restrictive in what you can do with warships. So I just, and I finally got a level 1 CV Japanese. Well, my first submarine was the British submarine because it was the first one to get. And that submarine sucked like hell. Plus the characters, the sailors that I had were from the tutorial systems, and they sucked big time. So the submarine had no range, no accuracy. It was cannon fodder. The British submarine was basically cannon fodder. So I revamped everything. Then I went to Japanese because I like the long range torpedoes. And when I went to the Japanese submarine, I redid the sailor, how I did the sailor training and sailor selection. And I really had it. My submarine crew were top notch when it came to torpedoes. And so yeah, I could go on a mid-tier ship, battleship, tier 6 battleship, go 3/4 into the 2/3 of the way to the ship, to the battleship. Lost my direct hit torpedoes, 4 of them, will sink 75% of all the ships in the Navy field. Only things that are going to survive are mid-tier ships and premium warships. Blast, knock down 50%, 25. The ships lose 50%, between 25% to 50% of their health, hull health, and then go back and surface at the edge of the, just outside of the maximum range of the guns. Just barely, just in and out, in and out. And those guys were furious up the A. My teammate would have a tier 4 battleship, and I was going up against a tier 6 premium player. And I was able to I follow him, and the premium players were, had tunnel vision, whatever, and they, forms, the Navy Field 1 forms are filled with players, tier, premium players saying, free-to-play players shouldn't be able to touch a premium player. Tier 1 player should not be able to touch a tier 6 player ship. And people were saying, I'm buddies. I know these people. I'm buddies, real life buddies with game moderators, game designers. I've been playing this game for 5 years. It's been in development for 4 years, and then was out for a year. So I spent $5,000 on this game, $1,000 a year on the game, and this is not right. This is not, and the game creators didn't do anything about it. So the game players hacked my computer, hacked my account. I don't know what, and so I went making an attack. I get knocked out of the game for. I get knocked offline for 30 seconds. Pop back in. My submarine is hit. The torpedoes had gone 4 ways to the wind. And I was damaged and I had to retreat, hobble back. And the first time that happened, ha ha ha, you're a newbie. It was like, okay, whatever. So, and it's those same players that are bitching about, I'm to your team, there's nobody to play with. Because, there's nobody of my skill level. It's all the same people. We all do the same thing. It's boring. This game is boring. We need bigger ships. We need, whatever. And the problem with tabletop RPGs is that if you do a module, like the G series, if you do, you're done. Players don't want to do. Oh, I'm a king. I got my own castle. Now I got to manage these resources, kingdom resources. I have to protect this. I got a civilian settlement that I need to protect. I got from monster invasions. I got to, communicate with other kingdoms to deal with outsourced, Lord of the Rings type stuff. They want to be perpetual Conan the Barbarian, the first movie, running around, tier level 36 characters, just running around, hacking and slashing like level 1 character, but doing what they were doing in level 1. You look at the deities and demigods. Well, before I could prior get deities and demigods, the American Christian community poo-pooed it. So I was able to get the Legends and Lores, which is the advisory. I got to ask somebody who had the deities and demigods to look at it, see what the difference was. Deities and demigods have an African mythology that the Legends and Lores don't have. And so I want to get deities and demigods. But you look at the deities there, a lot of them are level 15 character class, maybe 18, maybe 12, 13, plus or minus. A few of them are level 36, a few of them, and they got like 4 to 6 classes, character classes, combinations that players are not allowed to have. Player characters are not allowed to have. And it's like, okay, what's that about? And these guys are gods. Okay, they're God, they're immortal. D&D uses the term immortals these days. Okay, I'm 6 years old. I'm old school. I don't, can't hack it. That's your problem. The care, they're dealing with issues that are beyond the game world that the player characters are in. The deities, the immortals. And what the Beckman rules do, and the masters, especially and with the immortal rules, is the game is outside of the game world, this game world. The master rules allows the players to interact with the immortal characters and the immortal rules. They get into the alternate realities of the game system. AD&D, the Player's Handbook, and the Dungeons Master Guide, Gary Gygax's first edition, talks about the outer planes, talks about the primary material plane, the elemental planes, and the astral plane and the ethereal plane, and general, basic concept that the Dungeon Master, that each play group can fudge. So play group 1, how the multiverse looks is different from play group 2. And so by the time, when you're level 15 in AD&D, so an AD&D, more so than the Red Book rules, because we're talking about basic and expert, this is before Beckman. Which is, Beckman came out in 1985, I think his basic came out, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. Yeah. Basic, expert, companion, master. One year late. So 89, I think, was the last one. Then AD&D second edition came out. That was a fiasco and a half that I never touched. And I'm glad I never dealt with that. So there, and what S1, S2 did was introduce the extra-dimensional realities of the D&D universe. And the players are more like, oh, I'm Conan the Barbarian. I want to be level 36 Conan the Barbarian, running around, killing a hacking thing. I don't want to deal with having a town, managing a town. I don't want to manage a castle. I want to have a castle to store my stuff, maybe. But that's, but I don't want that headache. At least that's the players, the RPGs that I've role-played with. So, what are you looking at? Right now, with this game world setting, which is basically basic and expert only, you do have elementals. You do have entities that are not native to this plane. Shadows. that are, gorgons and hellhounds are not native to this game world. If you look at mythologies, real life mythologies. But the way they're described in this game and these basic expert rules, they did not travel between the planes on their own. They have to be brought here. They're generally they're not brought here by player characters. They're brought here by NPCs who are not native to this game world setting. They exist outside of the game world setting, or they inhabit the game world setting and they switch back and forth on a regular basis. So these the hellhounds and gorgons are basically guardians of portals. Or of treasures and stuff that of entities that travel between the realities. One hour and 26 minutes. Okay. So, with the Dungeon Master, you have to, and what I'm doing with this is what the Dungeon Master has to deal with. The Dungeon Master has to deal with creating a monster list of what the player characters are going to encounter. The Dungeon Master has to create a game world setting which the monsters inhabit. Dungeon Master say, okay, I'm just going to do modules. And so I'm not going to worry about the game world itself. I'm just going to do a G1 module. Then I'm going to do a D1 module, or I'm going to do a T1 module. I'm going to do a DL Dragonlance 1 module. Whatever. And this is going to go around, it doesn't matter. The game world, there's no, they're not going to mess around with the World of Greyhawk, for example. So the campaign is from module to module, whatever, you can do that. Or you can, the Dungeon Master says, I'm going to create my own adventure stuff. The game sessions, YouTubers are talking about how campaigns last about 6 sessions and it dies. The campaigns that I've been in, well, first of all, in that original play group with 12 to 20 players and 3 to 4 Dungeon Masters, my character died. The Dungeon Master, I think it was a substitute Dungeon Master or secondary Dungeon Master, wanted to create, wanted a monster to deal with the play group. We had such a large play group. The play group party was so large, 12 characters running around in a dungeon. And we're dealing with level 5 characters, level 3 characters, We hack slashers. And this is a hack and slash group. Open the door, kill the monster, take the treasure. That's what we were about. We weren't about learning about the game world. Like magic, magic users have magic items, spells, even clerics, okay, clerical spells. Wait, yeah. Okay, you see these clerical spells? Okay, take them from classes. Okay, you got clerical spells. And you have magic use spells. Okay, where's the magic user list? Okay, here's the magic user spell list. It's even more extensive. Look how extensive, look how extensive the magic user spell is compared to the cleric spells. Magic users collect magic items and they create spells, they research magic. Okay? Magic users are the reasons why you have magic portals. Magic users are the reason why elementals exist within this game world setting. Okay? Magic users are the reason why there is magic swords, magic shields, magic weapons, equipment like bags of holding. Clerics are followers of immortals who engage in certain specific magical activities. Example, let's look at real life mythologies. Excuse me. Zeus. He's king of the gods. Well, Zeus is not really a good example because Zeus is actually brothers and sisters of all the other mythologies. He's the one that killed their father ate the kids and his siblings, and he killed the father and got the siblings out of his stomach. And so they owe fealty to Zeus for that. And that's why Zeus is the king of the gods. But you look at Poseidon, king, the deities of the seas, Athena, Isis, let's go to the Egyptians. Goddess of knowledge. She becomes goddess because of her. She was originally a goddess of knowledge. She studied stuff. She became goddess of magic because her knowledge of she learned how from the god of magic. So I think she became fertility because she helped nature. She was involved with keeping animals alive, keeping humans alive, healing, and fertilizing plants, making, she did a lot of stuff. Because her thing was intelligence and knowledge. So she became a jack of all trades type goddess. Mercury is messenger and speed. So you look, even if you go to Native American gods, each one has their own, realm of specific traits. They are centered around certain things. Same thing with Chinese gods, same thing with Japanese gods of ancient mythologies. Clerics these gods give clerics part of their energy due to their devotion to that entity. And it is through the energies that the gods gave the cleric that the clerics can cast spells. So clerics are not into spell creation, magic creation that magic users are into at the level that they are into. Clerics spell research and is about devotion to the gods and helping doing what the specificity that the god is focused on. So when you look at sci-fi, science fiction, pre-Dungeons and Dragons RPG, sword and sorcery storylines, sword and sorcery fantasy storylines, movies, TVs, you see a magic user like the Camelot TV series, miniseries, which is a comedy musical. Good. I'd like to see that again. It was funny. It was good. You have the magic user has vials of liquids. You got bats, worms, plants, seeds, and jars, and stuff. Shelves filled with all kinds of stuff. Magical components, books. You got rooms devoted to books and scrolls. Histories, foreign lands, histories of individuals, knowledge about deities and whatnot. You have the magic guilds, the sorcerer guilds, library. You have a library where sorceries and clerics come together, talk about gods and stuff. There's a library where they share each other's information, where books can be reference each other's for information. The Library of Alexandria. That, nobody focuses in on that. And so there is lore, historical lore. How did the earth evolve? How did societies become what they are now? The RPG players that I've been with are not interested in that. My original character, my original Red Book Rules character was Kinnear. It's a rewriting of my last name, Corin. It's the only one that makes sense to me at that time. It is, I'm, 7th grader, 7th, 8th grader. 8th grade, 7th grade graduated into 8th grade. And so that, or common practice back then was, you just rewrite your name backwards. Your first name or your last name, whatever. And I did it backwards. Neruk, and nah. So Kaniru. Then 1983, one of the RPGers that was part of that play group, massive play group I was talking about, came in with the Fire Lord from the African nation, the African mythology and the deities, demigods. Walked around in the D&D campaign. Ken and my brother and I got bored. We walked in this field of flame, and he walked away. Like, you're stupid, you're fools, or whatever. This is AD&D is a real game, And it's like, whatever. So that's how we got introduced to AD&D. I still can play. I continue solo playing the D&D Red Book rules. So the play group never was interested in the historical lore of the world. Modules that the TRC was producing had history written into them. You can explore the history of what was going on in the game world, but nobody was really interested in doing that. They just want to kill the monster and take the treasure. And D&D and AD&D leveling was based on treasure. The more treasure you get, the faster you level up. And so you did not really learn about the game world that you're in. You did not learn about who's who, what's what, why is this, why is that, unless you're specifically trying to get a specific set of equipment. That's your mission role as to why are you here, where are you planning on attacking this people, or what's needed to attack that people, whatever. Then yeah, but the evolution, the historical evolution of the game world, the creation of the game world, the force that shaped the game world, nobody really cared about that. What I'm doing with this information leads these environmental system data sheets leads to that level of gameplay, adventure storyline, campaign storyline. Okay, I think I have to do that. Okay, so that's what, there is not, within this campaign, at this time, there is not a lot of thought being taken into the material planes, the elemental planes, and the alternate realities to this game world. What I'm doing here is a prototype, is prototyping the type of activities, the type of information that I need for the BECME. The BECME rules. How do these monsters interact with each other? How does the game world environment interact with each other? How, what's what, and who's whom, what's what. There, you need to have some idea why things are the way they are. And by creating these monster lists, there is some amount of information outside of the immediate under one monster storyline that I want to do. That's the primary focus of this project, is to create an under one monster game for this particular character that I'm creating. But within that game world, there are other things going on outside of that. So by doing the monster list, which turns out the vampire storyline, will allow me to create a game world not just centered around this one adventure, then we expand beyond that and create. I have a general expansion idea to begin with, and then go from there. How to expand from that. There is a lot of work. The Dungeon Master has to do a lot of work. And even if you I bought the first edition AD&D World of Greyhawk setting. There are 5 or 6 different books, or is it 4? They mention a total of 5 or 6 books describing the game world, but 2 of the books are lost. Either they were damaged or missing. They don't know. There's some mystery behind that. Ancient tomes, ancient history, time, people's long gone, wars and stuff. Who knows, So, as a dungeon master of the World of Greyhawk game setting, a lot of what I'm doing here has already been done within the World of Greyhawk. But even so, as a dungeon master, I'm going to look at that information and create additional information for myself as to how does this work together, how does that work. And so, even if I was just to do the World of Greyhawk, the mechanics. That's the most. Oh, this is obsolete data. Okay. I gotta reorganize this. This is obsolete and stuff, and what I just did, I just added this section last night. The last 2 videos, video 19 and video 20, I did last night. So this is something I did last night. We need to do that. And these are the loose papers. Can you see what I'm doing there? Okay, it's sorted. Okay. So this is the player character sheets format, and this is the obsolete paperwork. This obsolete paper is going to go bye-bye eventually. So it needs to be in the very back of the thing. And so this is the organization. So the mechanics is probably going to be right here. Oh, that's the rules. Now here's the mechanics. So yeah, as a dungeon master with the Grove of Greyhawk camp, if I'm not creating my own game system, but I'm using World of Greyhawk or Dark Sun or whatever, I'm going to have to go through and make my own notes to get track of what in the heck is going on. How does things work in this game world? Help me remember, what kind of storylines do I want to do? What kind of plots and twists? What kind of rumors does that game world have? What game system rules am I going to have for the campaign world? For them, right now I got the the mechanics for a giant vampire bat. I got mechanics for lycanthropy rare rats. I got lycanthropy, period. I got general mechanics for lycanthropy. Then I got rare rat mechanics. Rare rat lycanthropy mechanics. I have werewolf lycanthropy mechanics. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. Okay. And then here is the rat disease mechanics. Now, within this game world setting, I've already, and I mentioned this in the earlier videos, rat disease, lycanthropy, and various other animal diseases like the giant centipede poisonous bite. There may be a connection between the diseases, so we can I can actually explore the vampire, how the vampire comes to be. I can explore how the undead came to be. I can explore, zombies and stuff. Now, the zombies and the skeletons are basically created by magic use spells. So, but there are other undead, okay, like the giant vampire bat. When you die from a giant vampire, you become an undead. And the D&D expert rules say, this may be a vampire. Where are we here? I gotta take off my glasses. So. Wait. Oh. Wrong book, side. There we go. That's as good as it's going to get. Okay, so it says here, any victim with, okay, I'm going to have to put my glasses on, see if I can read it better. Any victim who dies from having his or her blood drained by a giant vampire bat must save versus spells or become an undead creature 24 hours after death. If D&D expert rules are used, this may be a vampire. So they're talking about the undead. Your character becomes a vampire. Now, how did that vampirism occur in the giant vampire bats? How did giant bats become giant vampire bats? Transition from normal giant bats to giant vampire bats. With that, what I'm doing for the note taking, well, I can explore that. And so my campaign is not necessarily open the door, kill the monster, take the treasure. Okay, I'm not interested in that type of gameplay. Will I be doing that? Yes, because that's what I know. Will I be, and also I am solo RPGing. So I am an aspiring novelist. I've been wanting to write novels since I was in first grade. I'm 60 years old. So, yeah. So I'm like 55 plus years, well, maybe not 55 years, but, over 50 years of my life I've been wanting to write novels. But I have writer's block. Back when I was in 5th grade, I installed writer's block onto myself, purposely. And because of an incident that happened in class, school class, concerning writing assignments. And since then, I have not been able to do anything. And I was and over the years, I forgot about that, and I hit that writer's block. In high school, when I started doing D&D and AD&D, and Traveler and Star Frontiers, I had Traveler and Star Frontiers, but I also did Gamma World. I did Marvel Superheroes. I was using the RPG systems to help me break my writer's block. And the History of Clone World Mega Junior campaign was an attempt at me breaking my writer's block. Firefly RPG is the first RPG system that can actually help me break my writer's block. But the Firefly RPG books that I have are felt covered. And so I really don't want to crack open those books and wreck those books with. This is kind of ragged out. And the way my box set, you've seen in my other videos, you've seen how my RPG stuff is kind of ragged out. So, my brain's going bye-bye, so that was a bad decision on my part, getting the felt covered books from the RPGs, Firefly RPGs. I don't know. So, there is, but you see, that there is a lot of work, and for the dungeon master, a lot more work than for the players. Players have a lot of management to do, a lot of work to do, and writing down information, what their characters know, what their characters did, and stuff like that. But what the dungeon master has to do is way much more complicated. way more invested. You're doing Hemingway's novelization activities. You're doing Mark Twain's novel. You're doing a lot of work. You're doing a lot of investigating. You're doing a lot. You invest a lot of time to put a module together, to put a storyline together to RPG. They spend 6 months, 12 months writing their books before it gets published. And you can read such books in a couple hours, a couple days, a couple weeks, a couple months. You know, the movie theaters, okay, you watch movies and stuff. The actors and actresses who perform the stuff, they are on set 3 to 6 months out of the year. The production crew, the people who do the special effects, all the editing and stuff, film editing and stuff like that, they spending another 1 to 6 months putting their film together, so then when we go to the movies or to the TV set, we're watching a 30-minute episode. Not even a 30-minute episode, because with TV commercials, you eat up that much. So if you got a 30-minute time slot, 15 minutes of that is eaten up by commercials. 10 to 15 minutes is eaten by commercials. So you're looking at, instead of a 30-minute show, you're looking at a 15 to 20-minute show. And you're looking at an hour program, you're looking at a 45-minute program storyline. And then with theater movies, you got anything between 50 minutes to 2 hours or 3 hours. And then you put that in syndication or made for, on a TV format, you're looking at a 1 hour to 2 hour slots that are dispersed with commercials and segments taken out, because a 3.5 hour movie like Dune can't be, they're not going to, do, unless they say, okay, we're going to do Dune Part 2, two multiple areas of Dune. Part 1 is a 2 hour, 1.5 hour, 2 hour thing. Part, or maybe, 2 hour slot, and then the next part 2 is a 2 hour slot with commercials. And knock it, knock the movie in half, and then add commercial have 2 hour slot, and then do part 1 and part 2. You have 2 hour slots, or maybe do a mini series and that way. But so there is a lot of work that goes into this. Teenagers are, middle schoolers are too young to really engage in this type of activity. There's too much. It's too complicated for them. Their interest is not there. The ability to focus is not there. It is, for me, it's not there. I do not have the ability to focus. I could not focus on. I was a class president in elementary school, and the class president was responsible for getting meetings together and stuff, and I didn't do any of that, and so I was voted out of the class presidency. So class politics is not. going into politics as a politician is not my thing. Definitely is not my thing. So it's people, the scientists who study. Almost phrase it. This is the only thing I have left of my Traveler 2300. This is a near star list of the 20, which uses a real life star system, 50 light years from Earth. Each individual, this is before xenoplanets even existed, before we found the first xenoplanet. Okay? So we got page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8. And these are all individual stars. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72 times 2, that's 144 times 7, (144 times 7) is that. Oh, 28, that's 30. Okay. 1,000 individual stars are identified. Okay. We're looking at 1,000 stars. Maybe 950 or something like that. Okay, but okay, you got to and look at what's the data. Okay, we have on individual data here. We got the name of the star. And it's you got binaries, you got single stars, binary stars, and trinary stars. So you have so if it's a binary star, well, okay, then you have companion stars. So you have a star, name of the star, and then if it's a if one of three stars, if it's a single star, primary star or secondary star or trinary star, it's A, B, and C. And then its location, X, Y, Z, and light years from Earth. And then you have the spectra range. Then size. Okay, G1 is spectra. G1 is spectra. Size is 5. M0 is a spectra. I don't know what these numbers, what the G's and M's and K's represent. A's. So you have 5, 6, 7, 3, 4. Okay, correction. 2, 4, 2, 5.5. Okay, correct. 1, 4, 4. Okay, so actually this companion star list is just a repeat of this information here, or what's in this thing. So you have spectra, magnitude. Spectra is the color, I guess. And the size, and the magnitude is how bright that thing is. Number is how many stars are in that system. I think the first 4 numbers represents when it got categorized, and the second number is when the solar system got identified. And the second system number is how many stars, which star got identified first within the system. I'm guessing. Okay. This, now this is based on the, let's see, where do we get the information? It says here, based on Greece's catalog of nearby stars. Wait, let me get out of the way. Based on Greece's catalog of nearby stars, edition 1969, with updates by Halliwell and others. Okay, so this is copyright Games Designer in 1986. So this is, they have basically 23 years. Wait. 89 is 30. Nope. 89 is 20. Minus 3. 17 years of data here. So the Greece's catalog is based on hundreds of uncounted numbers of astrophysicists going to the telescopes across the world and identifying stars, writing down the numbers that they've seen, going through data. So since Galilee. So we're talking about hundreds of years of data accumulated here. And each astronaut would go to the telescope, like the Hubble telescope in Hawaii, spend a few days, maybe a week, at the Keck telescope as an example, photographing stuff. They may the actual time recording, the actual hour spent taking photographing night may be 3 or 4 days in total. And 2 or 3 hours per night, looking at a specific star region at night sky. Take that data, go home. Well, I may spend a week there spending hours writing down information by hand. Back in the days before there was typewriters. But even then they had to write by hand. And then they convert that into typewriters. A typewriter format. Then they had to convert that into computer data sheets. Nowadays, they bypass the typewriter. They use a computer instead. They may do some handwriting now, but everything is you take a disk, whatever, file transfer, and look at the data, maybe handwrite, maybe take a separate computer and type down information. But they're spending a lot of time, 4 hours a week, generating this stuff 3 to 6 months a year. Okay, and that's, Neil deGrasse Tyson can say, what kind of investment is involved that he has spent doing that. Looking for black holes, because that's his specialty was black holes. So that is, role playing is a fun and interesting thing, but it is really invested work, and it is data intense. And if you do not like writing, you do not you need to use a smartphone or a tablet to create formats and stuff, and then type it out. Or go into the typewriter and type it out. If that's not your thing, RPGing is not going to be for you. You're going to do a few of that and then, boom. Let's pretend the child's game, tabletop RPGs is is an adult version of childhood pretend games. For girls, that would be House, Tea Party, Barbie. For us boys, it was Cowboys and Indians, Cops and Robbers, Superheroes and Supervillains. Yeah. This is very intense. A lot of work. A lot of work. And we are at 2 hours and 20 minutes, so I can finish this up. I'll forget to do that later. I don't need this. No, I really don't need that. That's a good X marks the spot. And as I misplace it, which I generally don't, I don't need eraser. Hit points. I need to go 2 levels here. So this is a data level. This is a data level. You know, let's say I got 10 hit points, and I lost some. So we start. This is the initial. This is how this would work. I made a change. Oops, wrong direction. Right here. So I put in a pencil here. So basically what it looks like is, okay, so the way how this would work is, okay, let's say the character starts with 10 hit points. It is very healthy. We're dealing with a fighter, or a dwarf, a D8, and then with a constitution, plus 3. So then you go, oh, you just took, you start, so you got, this is your base starting point. You may get benefits. Oh, you got extra life points. So let's say you get an extra 15 life, extra 5 life points. You got a magic spell that boosts your health or something like that. So you now have 15. You don't change this because this is your default, and this 15 will go bye-bye because it's magic. And then, oh, you took some damage, so now you're 12. So now you're at 12. And then, oh, you took, maybe you healed 1 hit point, so you're now at 13. You know, and then, you know, then you know, X, and now you're at 0, and then somebody kills you at -1, you know. And so, okay, that's that. So that's how that works. So, so you want, And if you ran out of space and you need to erase something, and you don't want to actually go over here and erase that, so that's why that's done. Strength. Can you see what's going on here? Yeah. Strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma. I'm going to put armor class on the bottom there, because generally you're going to have just oh, okay. Oh, wait a minute. The D&D assumes you just have one. You're going to be equipped. If you're like a thief, you have leather armor. You're a fighter, you may have plate armor and shield. And then, so that's your armor class. With AD&D, it's assumed that your armor, you can fluctuate, you can switch out your shield for a bow and arrow. So there is more flexibility and the data chart on the armor class and with AD&D than with the Dungeons & Dragons. The Dungeons & Dragons is the kiddie version of Dungeons & Dragons. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons is the adult version of Dungeons & Dragons. Okay. So we have saving throws. Oh, the ink's going now. Okay. Poison or death ray. You have magic wand. Turn to stone. Or paralysis. Dragon breath. And we have spells or magic staff. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I can see it, so that's the important thing. And then we have armor class. Okay. Now the way I've envisioned it, the reason it was set over here is the reason I was saying, okay, you have a shield. Your character's going to carry a shield. The shield has +1 armor class or -1 armor class. You have other armor, or you have armor that gives you an armor class. You're carrying a shield and a sword. That's a different armor class. So there would be fluctuations into what your actual armor class would be. So that's why I would have it over here. But I just stick it down here for simplification. We'll see how this works out. In actual practice. May need revisions. It may go on the back here on your abilities. pencil. Glasses on. Okay. Here's what this looks like. Now, these abilities are due to race, and which is class is also race. So, dwarves have abilities. A dwarf is a class. Elf is a class. Halflings is a class. Fighters is a class. So they have the. So all this would be under here. Race. Now, this was a Dungeons and Dragons game. Then I would have race abilities. And then I'll probably have a character sheet for class abilities. Or maybe race abilities and then have class abilities over here. Depending on how the data would work out. Oops. Okay, wait. Okay, this is pencil. Okay. Oh yeah, that's because that's an example. Okay. Actually, I like that. Yeah, okay. That's what I'm going to do. That is why I use a pencil to create an example data sheet. And as gameplay progresses, during actual game sessions, the data sheet format may also change as time progresses, depending on, unforeseen 2 of 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if the character has shield, he gets a bonus. If he does not have a shield, there's no bonus. You'll recognize there's no shield, no bonus. Armor, I had to identify what type of armor it is. And then add the bonus there, its class. And then you have a shield and armor. So that way your character can, you know, well, I'm walking through the dungeon with sword and shield. And okay, I'm going to put the shield down, and I'm going to whip out my bow and arrow, and I'm going to, you know, switch out the shield for a bow, and then have an arrow on my bow, walking around that way. Okay, this paint is starting to dry up. It needs to. Okay. The character sheet design is done. And we are at 2 hours and 24 minutes. 24? No, 42 minutes. That's going on 3 hours. Okay. Next video session, I'm going to actually do the actual character design. So, let's see here. Finish those processes. I need my eyesight. Write down the abilities, ability scores, bonuses and penalties, experience points that we got to that point, which resulted in I had to change this data. And then we go over here, determine the number of hit points. Character alignment, choose alignment, roll 3d6 for each abilities. Oh, correction. Roll 3d6. This is the number of money that you're going to have. 3d6 times 10 is how much gold pieces you can play with. Consult the tables on costs and equipment. Now, Adventure Zero. YouTube does games. Adventure Zero is where the character you did everything, all of this. Now you go to the game world and you actually have to interact with townsfolk to acquire possessions. To purchase, or you got money and you know, it's like a wing commander privateer. You start out, you start the game. There's a lot of games that do the same thing. Oh, crap, my leg cramped. Okay, in Wing Commander Privateer, you start the game and say, I'm a nobody. You got inheritance from dad or grandpa or somebody. You got a family inheritance, which features a spaceship and some credits. You go to the space station where the spacecraft is, and there's a hunk of junk, and you have some credits to play with. You can do some customization with the spacecraft if you so choose, which I do. There are three different, with Wing Commander, there's three different versions. You know, if we're going to do a trader game, I do have one set of conversions. I have one set of conversions. If I'm doing a combat game, I have a different conversion system, set of conversion. And if it's going to be a combination of the two, there's a third conversion method. There's three different configurations. Trading configuration, combat configuration, combo configuration for the Wing Commander Privateer. And then you go start doing your thing. With Adventure Zero and the game sessions, you are you're interacting with you get what the adventure does is you get your equipment, you try to figure out what equipment you want, you're trying to figure out what the mission is, you get to feel for the game world, you get to feel for the game master style, you get to feel for the other players, and you get to feel for how the player characters interact, you get to feel for how the game Dungeon Master is the game world that the Dungeon Master created. So that's where the buying equipment and stuff is from. This can be role played. This does not have to be role played. Back in the 1980s, I did not role play this. I just did it and stuff. Now, on some cases, I left some. If I had enough wealth, I would buy some equipment, and then I'd buy some, but then try to save some money so that way when I do go on an actual adventure, I can spend money on additional equipment, depending on the campaign world I'm in and stuff. There are. Pardon me for yawning. There are some modules in the D&D game world. X1 module, Dread was one of them. But Star Frontiers had a module, beginner's module, where you buy your brand new character, you buy your equipment, you do the adventure, and immediately you lose all your equipment, no chance of getting it back. Every money you spent is gone. Everything you have is gone, and you can't get it back. The stuff that you bought, you've been stolen, whatever, it's out of there, and you're going to have to basically rebuild yourself from scratch. There are game system modules that are like that, and that sucks. So then we have. Now that you know what your armor is, do your armor data. You do your character attack tables. You do your saving throws. And then you name your character. I've already done that. And then you have a summary of what you're doing here. So, roll for ability scores, choose classes, Make notes on classes and spells. Adjust scores as desired. Okay. And then roll 4 points, 4 hit points. Roll for money. Find armor, attack, and saving throw numbers. Name the character. Okay. Oh. Then here's the section on ability score adjustments. And here's the description. Here's the section on ability score adjustment rules. Here's the section on hit points and hit dice. And here's the section on what the abilities are. And then this page is the adjustment tables and penalty tables for your ability scores. And so that's next in the video, because that's going to take a while. And we're at 2 hours and 52 minutes. Later.